We are back for episode 95 of the Auld Triangle podcast. Right here with me, as always, Andy Stevenson, Caoilte Barra, along with me, Ian O'Neill, to talk all things Irish mixed martial arts. We have two pieces of content for you guys this week. If you haven't seen it already, we do have an interview with Dylan Danuke, who recently announced his retirement from the sport. Gave us a great interview, so we decided to section that one off. Give him the spotlight there, and we're here to talk all recent events in Irish mixed martial arts this past weekend, over the past couple of weeks. We have much to discuss, and we're glad to be here. As I said, Andy Caoilte is here with me. Andy, you keeping well? What's the crack?
We're back. Ireland are the greatest football team in the world, and the Auld Triangle is back.
What a moment in time for Irish sport. Look, we won't talk about the rugby that happened this past weekend. I think the Irish rugby team let the whole nation down in terms of, sporting achievements over the past couple of weeks. But
I'd like to apologise on behalf of all of South Dublin.
Yeah. It's got to give you a dig there, Stevenson. I say I didn't get the chance to watch it. I think there were lots of we have a few handbags. As I didn't even see any highlights. Red cards, yellow cards galore in that game. Anyway, but. How's it ever? We did have some joy with the soccer, Caoilte. We did have some joy this past weekend at UFC Qatar as well, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But great to be Irish. Great to have some Irish sporting greatness happen, isn't it?
Oh, it's unreal. I think just the vibe around football in our sport in Ireland in general, but that win and Troy Parris just bringing us all the joy that we've been missing in Irish football for God knows how many years now. We finally got it. So,
and as a Burnley fan,
yeah. Well, I mean, I can't say I'll talk either because I'm a Man United fan and it's been fucking struggle city for some joy when it comes to watching soccer over the last couple of years. But that was it was unbelievable. Like I dropped the phone out of my hand. I was in a state of shock. Shit like that doesn't happen with Ireland. You know what I mean? But look, we're not there yet. I do have one eye on the States next year as well. It'd be great. It'd be great if we could make it happen against Czechia, and then probably Denmark after it. But anyway, let's enough about soccer, lads, because we have plenty of MMA to talk about as well. And we had a big win over in Qatar this past weekend as Ian Garry took on Belal Muhammad in the co-main event. Happened on Saturday. He tied the record for most wins for an Irishman inside the UFC, tied obviously with Conor McGregor with a decision win over the former champion, the number one contender in the division, and put on a really, really good performance overall. I think, we're going to spend the time. We'll break down the performance. We'll break down the aftermath. We'll break down, I guess, the landscape in the welterweight division, a division that is probably the best division in mixed martial arts right now, full stop, steeped with talent. We got to see it in the New York card. We got to further see it here, obviously, with the performance that Ian Garry put on. And it was a good win by decision, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28 was the judges' scorecards. Let's break down the fight round by round first. Obviously, Andy Ian came out very fast in this one. And I think for me, what I was most excited to see in this performance with him is the fact that this was the first time since the MVP fight that we have seen Ian Garry operate off of a full training camp, and I think that's where he absolutely operates at his best and his highest level. And I think, that was definitely on show from the get-go, early days in round one.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of forget that, that he's had so many of these late notice replacements. But yeah, I mean, coming into this fight, I had really high hopes for Ian Garry. I thought that I failed to see a scenario, which is pretty crazy to say when you consider, Belal Muhammad's champion 6 months ago in the UFC. But I failed to see not a world, but I would have been shocked if Muhammad went out and beat him here. Ian does a phenomenal job of controlling the distance. He was quick. He gets in and out with his jab, with his kicks, and he basically did, we've seen him against the likes of Shavkat as far as his grappling defense when, lads are trying to take him down against the cage. I was kind of expecting Belal to, abandon. He was never going to be able to outstrike Ian. He wasn't going to be able to break the distance. He wasn't going to be able to, outside of having a puncher's chance. And he did land a couple of nice shots, especially I think it was in the second round to open it. But I just saw Ian cruising to victory here. And to be honest, the fight played out relatively exactly what I was expecting. I know Ian came out and was giving it the big one about the KOs and all that stuff, but this had an Ian Garry, tactical, technical masterclass written all over it. And I think, albeit, there was some close rounds in there, I had a 30-27 for Ian. I thought the second was very close, but this was kind of what I expected. And another really solid performance from Ian Garry. And as you mentioned, 10 wins now in the UFC, only 28 years old. He's probably going to go on to break every record. He's probably going to break a number of records that McGregor once held and still holds to this day. Obviously a long, long way to go to reach any sort of, comparison as far as, the sporting heights that McGregor reached in the sport. But he's on his way towards breaking a lot of records.
Yeah, 100%. We'll talk maybe about what maybe next for him in a little bit. Caoilte, I'd like to talk to you and maybe analyze the fight, the performance itself. Obviously, the big threat here coming in was the takedown of Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad was very confident in his ability to be able to take down Ian Garry at will. That was not the case. I mean, we have been watching Ian Garry for quite some time. And, we are fully aware of his takedown defense. And it was right on show here. I think, the striking has always been there. I love the jab. I'll talk about the striking first. I love the jab. I love the quickness of the jab. I love the feint. And I love the teep kick down the middle to the body. I love the oblique kick to the lead leg as well. All that, Caoilte, to set up distance here. And it's distance that you need to be able to control a fight the way Ian Garry wanted to control this fight as well. I do notice in some of the notes here, something that I definitely did notice as well was that lower bent down stance, like we've seen Michael Morales do against Sean Brady, and against a lot of fighters that will take on grapplers that want to keep the fight standing up. They will have that lower stance as well. It'll make it easier for them, obviously, to drop in for the double underhooks to defend the takedown. Up against the cage, Ian Garry looked very strong as well. I think we knew the striking was there. I think, we knew that the grappling was there as well. I think the overall, maybe general audience got a real good taste as to how good Ian Garry's takedown defense was against Belal Muhammad. I do think that there was an inkling of that when he fought Shavkat Rakhmonov as well. But for people that were saying Belal Muhammad didn't try to take this fight down, I mean, I don't know what you're looking at here. He certainly tried to take this fight down on numerous occasions, but was unsuccessful, and that was to not many number of factors, Caoilte, that I just mentioned there. Were you just as impressed as I was?
Yeah, the distance control and how he kind of used the cage to his advantage, used the size to his advantage it was remarkable, to be honest with you. The way he was able to control that fight from the very beginning and not allow Belal Muhammad to kind of smother him and get him down and make it a dirty fight, really, in terms like putting up against the fence, take him down. He just didn't allow that to happen. He seemed in complete control. I think throughout the entire fight, I was always confident from that first round. I was always confident that I think he's just going to cruise to victory here. The way, how confident he looked, how good he was. I think his footwork is just exceptional as well, the way he works off the jab. And yeah, we got to see a good glimpse of what he can do in there. And he's setting himself up quite well. Obviously, the finishing, he's not getting the finish like he spoke about before the fight, but I guess in terms of the actual performance, that is, it's rather flawless, to be honest. All it's missing is the cherry on top of a finish. The way he's worked off the jab, I loved the kicks, the oblique kick in particular, to be honest. Like you mentioned, there was something when he was throwing that I really, really liked that kick. It's a horrible, nasty one, but I feel like he utilized it exceptionally throughout the entire fight. Like I said, timing, footwork, distance management. Flawless performance overall.
Yeah, and I'm sure you were just as impressed with the level of performance. It wasn't all. I mean, we'd be lying to ourselves to say if it wasn't all one-way traffic. I think Belal Muhammad did get off some of his box, and he did land on Ian Garry on a couple of occasions. A lot of those shots I do feel landing when Ian Garry was moving away. I think maybe one or two or three big impactful strikes from Belal Muhammad throughout. And obviously, you know, the eye poke situation at the start of the fight wasn't ideal. Obviously, we had another, you know, supposed eye poke. I don't believe it was an eye poke in round 2 as well. And then obviously the biggest shot of the fight, I think, came in the 3rd round when Ian Garry landed that big right hand and wobbled Belal Muhammad too. Look at Caoilte mentioned the finish didn't come. It wasn't from a lack of trying. And I think Ian Garry did get off some big strikes that maybe other fighters might not have been able to take as well. Your thoughts, please?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose going round by round, like I thought he fairly cleanly won the first round. Obviously, he dropped him with a low kick early on in that. There was the eye poke, which was a legitimate eye poke. And, you know, you can kind of get down to that whole conversation, which seems to come up every single week in the UFC now. But, you know, I thought it was a relatively clean. He cut Belal in the first. The sheer point about, you know, Belal did land. Like, he landed a big right hand at the start of the second round. But again, I think that Ian just did a really good job of fighting. Like, we see him fighting on the outside. You talked about his footwork there. He's on his bike when he needs to be. But then, and like what Caoilte was mentioned, like the really just aggressive. Like I think one of the really good things he did was his kicking. Because I think like Belal's opportunity here, or his best path to victory, was to get inside to get his takedown. And Ian, not only did he keep the distance with his kicks, with the, you know, very aggressive oblique kicks and also the low kicks, but he's also chopping away at his base and just, you know, just stunting Belal, chopping him at his legs, which is what he needs to use to get in and to drive through and to be able to get a double leg, or, you know, he's taking it away.
Distance, like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It controls the distance, but it also makes you hesitant to want to close the distance too, because you're being punished for doing so as well. And I think, you know, it's excellent fight IQ there by Ian Garry.
Yeah, definitely. And then obviously, I think it was good to see him up the pace in the third, because, you know, the second was definitely the closest round in my opinion. But yeah, like the big right hand that he lands, the crane kick as well up the middle that he landed, I think just right after that. There was about 3 shots. I can't remember. There was another shot as well, all in the space of maybe 10-15 seconds, that looked like, okay, Ian is now fully taken over this fight and is now starting to put his stamp on it. And yeah, just again, very impressive. Like, I know, I don't know if we want to get into this now, but like Ian kind of sets himself up for criticism in his wins, which is kind of crazy, because like he's having these really solid sporting wins, like against really high level competition, you know, top of the food chain guys in the UFC. Yet he kind of leaves the door open for, but he didn't fucking finish the guy. He's shy because he didn't go in and finish Belal Muhammad, a guy who hasn't been finished in like a decade or something like this. Whereas, like, you know, we don't need to be looking at it that way. It's a very, very good win here.
No, but that's a fair point. I think I would have a similar enough opinion as well, Andy, in terms of, I think, like the way I kind of label it is, I think he does himself an injustice by how he talks about certain fighters and what he's going to do to those fighters before the fight, because we hear him talking in the post-fight interview, and he was saying, you know, nothing surprised him about Belal, that, you know, he knew he was going to be a tough guy. He hasn't been finished in such a long time, ever in the UFC, actually. I wouldn't say, he hasn't been finished ever in his career, I want to say. And, you know, those are not, I mean, look at, okay, you have to talk a fight up. You probably have to build yourself up with some confidence, but I don't know. I do feel that kind of chit chat does lead to a little bit more negativity than there should be after a fight as well. And I think there's no denying the body of work that Ian Garry has done in the welterweight division, and the guys who he has beaten and fought against is probably the best of the up and coming fighters. You may ask yourself the question why the UFC decided to make this a 3-round fight, why they decided to put him in against a guy like Belal Muhammad. Would he have fared out better against maybe a Sean Brady or a Leon Edwards? I don't know. You know, it probably was, whether we want to admit it or not, one of the toughest tests that, you know, if we want to call it the big 3 right now, Morales, Praches, or Ian Garry, who are all in the mix for maybe the next title shot. Obviously, Kamaru Usman is there as well. You know, Ian Garry was done with probably the toughest task of all 3. And I think, you know, he passed that with flying colors in certain regards, but in a world and in an environment that is now circulating around entertainment and finishes, you know, that's kind of the narrative that has been set by the UFC. It doesn't give me great confidence that Ian Garry is going to get the next title shot. And maybe I'll go to Caoilte first, maybe for his opinion, and maybe I'll just ask for Andy's opinion after that as well. And as to, what should be next and what will be next are two different things, I think.
Yeah, look, in an ideal world, it would set up a title shot. I don't think it will. Just like you said, the way it's an entertainment business nowadays, everyone wants to see finishes. That's just the name of the game. And I think, even though he's put on such a good performance, one that I've just waxed lyrical over, I don't think he'll get a title shot next. Now, if he went out and finished him, I think he'd have a lot better chance of getting that. But just the way the business is, I don't think so. I think it'll take another fight to be, if we're being realistic. I wouldn't be surprised if he got the likes of a Usman or Jack Della Maddalena next, and then that being the one to set up a title shot. But look, stranger things have happened. He had I do think the call out on the mic afterwards is very good. He cut a good promo there. But I don't think he get a title shot next. I think that would be reserved for the lads who are finishing guys in the division at the moment.
Or Andy, it could be a guy who was waiting in the wings here, and that's been talked about by the champion. That's Kamaru Usman as well. I just think where does Ian get? Honestly, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but all roads are leading towards Kamaru Usman for the next title shot. Where do you think Ian Garry stands in the mix of everybody here? And we can't not mention Shavkat Rakhmonov here as well. Obviously, his last win came against Ian Garry, a good win too. Obviously, he's been on the sidelines with a knee injury, and there's no signs of him making a return anytime soon, really, if we're being honest. It's kind of up in the air when he will return. Where do you see all this? Where do you see all of this kind of landscape in the welterweight division right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. We could probably hypothesize this for about 20 minutes, but well, I suppose firstly, if we look outside of the division, the talking point and the potential matchup that's been bandied about for a while now, which I really hope doesn't happen at this point, is Ilia Topuria coming up to weight class, or I guess another weight class, to fight Islam Makhachev now that he's the champion. I would hope, given that Arman Tsarukyan basically made Dan Hooker look like he didn't deserve to be in a cage with him at the weekend there in the main event, that would then, prime that matchup to take place at lightweight. I don't think Topuria needs to come up. I think it would be it's just unnecessary right now, at least when there's so many in the welterweight division. I'll address the Kamaru Usman thing first. I mean, it's the sport is a fucking joke if Kamaru Usman gets this. I know it's not, again, this is not really a sport. It's not pure, at least not pure sport. It's sports entertainment. It's politics. It's a mix of these different things, and the reality is the UFC operates with essentially house managers who will, do what they need to do to stay in the good graces. And Ali Abdelaziz would love nothing more than to have two of his fighters compete in a pay-per-view main event with Islam Makhachev and Kamaru Usman. But come on, Usman isn't okay. Look, all the credit in the world to him. He was a brilliant champion from when he was. I thought he's had some great fights since then. Even despite losing it, gave Khamzat Chimaev a good go. But you can't be when there's so many fresh young talent that are putting on phenomenal performances. And even take Ian Garry aside, where he's just gone in here, 28 years old, beating the former champion as of 6 months ago. You have Michael Morales going out there and starting Sean Brady, looking just like an absolute specimen. Also fighting Brady in a way where, he has his hips back. Just that thing alone could be used as, can Islam get to the hips kind of narrative. Prat is obviously starching Leon Edwards in a way that we haven't seen before. So I think I'll in the lead up to this fight, I thought Ian Garry has to go in here and get a finish if he wants to get the title shot. That being said, I think it is, I don't know, the news cycle just moves so quickly, and it's what have you done for me lately? And the fact that he was last goes in his favor. Honestly, I think the interaction with Khamzat Chimaev after the fight goes in his favor. And I know I'm guilty of this. We constantly kind of analyze Ian Garry's the way that he delivers in press conferences and how he speaks on the mic and how he overpromises and sets himself up for failure. But his role in the sport at this point, it's not necessarily to be liked. It's not necessarily to be the fan favorite. It's to be that other guy that he makes people feel something. You know, they're not they're not indifferent to Ian Garry. Say what you want about him, they're not. So, you know, he's obviously leaning into this Ireland versus Dagestan thing too.
Which is marketable, and the UFC will fucking wrap up.
They'd be all over it. They'd be all over it. He'd be going to, you know, can he surpass Conor McGregor to 11 wins by beating the, you know, I mean, in Ireland, Dagestan too, can he go where Conor couldn't go, get to the 11 wins, beat the Dagestani? There's a lot of ways you can market this. So I don't know what happens. I would be surprised, to be honest, if Shavkat does get the next shot, because I just feel like they could throw him into another fight and get another
I think it'd be advisable for him as well, wouldn't it? Like, after being off the shelf or on the shelf for so long, you know, you don't want to kind of come back in and take on a task like Islam Makhachev.
Shavkat versus Prates, Shavkat versus,
you know. Look at it, and there's going to be a factor in the decision here as what Islam Makhachev, what does he and his team want as well.
Well, they want Usman.
Yeah, exactly. And they've said that. So that's why I'm kind of, you know, the UFC is definitely going to play ball with those guys. And that's why I don't hold any great hope that, you know, Ian will get the immediate next shot. There's nothing saying that Ian could wait for that fight to happen and then fight after it. But I don't know whether Ian, and I you know, I would imagine he doesn't want to be left on the shelf for that long either. So, you know.
Who would you do? Let's say Ian doesn't get it. Who would you match him against?
I would match him against Michael Morales.
Oh, fucking hell, that's a crack.
Yeah.
Like, this the thing is, like, even if whatever we get, the rest, there's so many matchups you can put him in. I don't think it makes any sense to put him in against Prates again this soon, right?
Yeah, I think that there's only two people. Yeah, I don't think it makes any sense. Obviously, Sean Brady lost. I think if they're, I would imagine Kamaru Usman will be, Kamaru Usman will be the guy that they would likely will pick. So I think, that just leaves Michael Morales there. And, you know, Ian.
JDM,
but JDM's coming off a loss, you know. So I think JDM, maybe Belal Muhammad rematch might be a good idea now.
Ian just keeps on fighting all of the losing champions.
Well, it's just they're all going to have to fight. They're all going to have to fight eventually. Like, you know, I think Ian fought a guy coming off a loss here. I don't know whether he's going to want to do that again. I think it would be unfair on him to do it again. I think if he was offered JDM, I think he takes it, but I think it'd be a better idea, and I think it would be a more kind of valued win for him to go and take out Michael. Yeah, if he went out and took Morales out, I mean, that's a fantastic win. Have under your belt. You're taking the guy's undefeated streak. You know, I do feel, even though it shouldn't be this way, that Ian Garry is going to have to be undeniable in that division to get the just rewards and get that title shot. He's going to have to almost, it won't go to the extreme levels that Tony Ferguson went to have to get a title shot. But, you know, he's going to be known as a guy who doesn't go out there and finish fights, because, you know, he doesn't. And that, even though he puts on tremendous performances, even though he wins relatively easy, what the UFC want are guys that are going out there and finishing fights so that they can sell that as exciting. Now they can sell the narrative of the Ireland versus Dagestan fight. And, you know, I think they would do that, but I don't know. I just have this feeling in my gut, without even knowing anything at all, that I don't think the UFC or the UFC brass are too hot on Ian Garry. You know, I just don't think they are. And that's a shame. And Ian Garry is just going to have to go out there and become undeniable. I think the only two people that, you know, potentially beat him or he could lose against in that division is the champion Islam Makhachev and also Shavkat Rakhmonov. And I'll give him a damn good chance against Shavkat Rakhmonov in the rematch as well. I think he would have learned a couple of valuable lessons in that. But I guess it begs the question, Caoilte, if it is Ian Garry and Islam Makhachev, do you believe that Ian has the skill set to take on and defeat the champion?
Oof, that's a question. Yeah, I don't know. I think he'd have a very good shot at it. It's very, very hard to look past Islam Makhachev. He's like, it'd be very hard to look past that. I think he'd have a very good opportunity if the fight always starts standing. Ian, we've seen how good Ian is on the ground and how he was against Shavkat Rakhmonov. But I just think Islam is a different beast altogether. However, I wouldn't write him off. Basically, I think it's one of those that he could match the level on the night, and he could get there, and he has that opportunity. But yeah, it's a toughie. Yeah, I'd love to see him prove me wrong, but right now, I don't think so.
He wants to kind of prove everyone wrong and himself right, Andy, and that's why I think, he did all the right things in the fight. Maybe bar the finish, did all the right things after the fight too. Cut a hell of a promo inside the octagon. Cut a hell of a promo walking backstage as well. Got into a little bit of a bust up at Khamzat Chimaev. Just creating narratives and creating stories is something that Ian Garry is very, very good at. Which also, I have to say is important in terms of getting some of the big fights as well. What do you think his chances are of dethroning the new champion in Islam Makhachev?
Oh, his chance. I mean, he's definitely has a chance.
Sure.
I'd pick Islam Makhachev in that fight. I think he's the best fighter in the world. I can't think of anyone who beats him right now. I know, even people talking about Ilia Topuria. I don't see.
Like, I have zero interest in seeing Ilia Topuria come up to welterweight to fight Islam Makhachev. That fight has to happen at lightweight. And the size of Islam in the last fight, he's not going to get down to lightweight now. So it's like, I think Islam he's
so well rounded.
Islam is Islam is just what I agree with Caoilte, one of the best fighters in the world. I think Ilia just has a little bit more to prove at lightweight, take on the challenges that he has there, and maybe see what happens then after that. But I honestly think Ilia, even though it would be a fantastic fight, is way down in the pecking order for next in line at Islam Makhachev right now.
Well, especially when you've got so many at welterweight, and you have a bona fide number one contender at lightweight. But yeah, look, I wouldn't, I'm not going to say Ian has no chance of winning, but I just don't see anyone beating Islam for the next while at welterweight. And if you're putting a gun to my head, asking me, they get booked in 6 months' time, I'm picking Islam every time. And I'd love to see Ian win, but.
Yeah, although I tend to agree now at this stage. I think that both you guys are right. I would be going to my head right now. Probably would be picking Islam, but I think it'd be a great fight. It'd be one that would probably play out over the course of 5 rounds and be razor close, to be honest. But
I think Ian has skills where the way that his footwork, the way that he fights on the outsides, the way that he uses his length and his jab and his kicks. But I just could see Islam, catching one of those kicks, doing what he does, stripping it down, getting to the mat. Yeah. And from there, he's better than pretty much anyone in the world.
Big time, yeah, big time. And it's like, I think what Ian Garry would be able to do that Jack Della Maddalena wasn't able to do was be able to fight his fight without the worry of being taken down. I think he, might have to get comfortable with the fact that he will get taken down. But I think he's confident that he can get back up to his feet. Will he be able to set a pace against a guy like Islam Makhachev? Because Jack Della Maddalena didn't put him at any pace at all. And Islam was allowed to fight the exact kind of pace of fight that he wanted to fight. I think you got to do it. You got to fight it at a fast pace. But obviously, defending takedown after takedown after takedown against Islam is also going to drain the tank of Ian Garry. It's a fascinating matchup, to be honest.
We talked for so long in Ian's career about the gym changes and all that stuff. Well, here's where it can work as a real benefit to him. He's talking about going over to Georgia and getting training. I think that's 100% a good idea. You need to embed yourself in this type of style of wrestling, which is obviously, it's a different country and all that, but you look at the likes of Marab and
100%. I think the switching of gyms and traveling around to train with some elite level fighters and coaches and stuff like that definitely has not done him any harm in the growth of his career and the growth of his skill set. But look, obviously we could probably do an hour special and talk about Ian Garry and what's next and everything like that. To round it all up, I think it was a great win. I think a guy like Ian Garry never probably will get the credit that he deserves. Like I said, plays a little bit into it himself, but I think that was a good win against a former champion, a guy who's never been finished, and Ian Garry came out of that contest relatively unscathed. And on to the next one, wherever it will be, whoever it will be against, time will tell. Let's move on to talk about Solomon Simon, guys. A guy who picked up the Cage Warriors featherweight championship at Cage Warriors 196. Took on Caoilte, won by second round TKO Caoilte. And, obviously we had Sol on a couple of times in the lead up to this fight and the lead up to the Dublin fight as well. A lot of roller coaster to deal with here, lots of ups and downs to deal with. Went out there, got the job done, and now is a world champion and deservingly so too. I think he's him and Nick Bagley are obviously the big dogs in that division, and obviously Nick was forced to pull out of the fight, but Solomon went in and lived up to his end of the bargain and produced a good performance.
Yeah, and I think with that one, he was caught off a bit in the first round with his opponent. I think Araujo came out, and I thought he was actually quite good. Araujo surprised me a little bit, considering short notice, everything like that. There's no footage available on this guy, so we didn't know what to expect. And he did. I think he put it up to Solomon Simon in that first round, and then it was up to Sol to adjust in the second round and managed to do what he does best. And then we actually saw it, and he got the finish in the end. And you see, he did it in typical Solomon Simon fashion of beating the buzzer once again. Only 4 seconds left on the clock in the second round to get that finish. But it's deserved. It was great to see him actually get out there, finally get a fight after the last two. After the Aidan Lee situation, and then Nick Bagley pulling out, and it was all up in the air. It was just good to see him finally get that opportunity and win the title that he had. He's put in so much work to get to that point and actually finally get it. It was great. And Waterford's first cage. Actually, I was going to say Waterford's first champion, but that would be a lie. I think there's been there might be one or two others in other promotions, but Waterford's first Cage Warriors champion, and you'd love to see it.
Yeah, 100%. I think you raised a good point there, Caoilte, and one that I'll bring to you as well, Andy. We talked to Sol, a lot of things were up in the air as well. Having to go into this fight with not too much knowledge of Araujo, not that much tape on Araujo, and then living with the doubt on if you're going to fight at all. I think all of those hurdles he had to get over can't have been easy. He definitely came out after the fight and said that it wasn't easy. So it just shows the sense of character that Solomon has as well, to be able to get over those challenges and go out there and take the title like he did. It definitely wasn't an easy task.
Oh, 100%. I mean, when we had him on ahead of the fight, we could peel back the curtain. We had two different versions where we were talking about a guy, which I'm glad we didn't put out, because he was in talks to fight some other guy, and then that fell through. So there was a number of opponents that were kind of put forward and on the table, and potential opponents for him after Bagley obviously had to unfortunately withdraw. So to finally get the opponent change, a week out from the fight, and then not only that, but we also had the weight cutting debacle where Araujo missed weight, was ineligible to fight for the title. I think he, if I remember correctly, he chose not to cut further, whereas Solomon actually missed twice, and then on the third attempt within the 2 hours he hit the 145 mark. So as Caoilte said, and as you were saying there, I thought that Araujo probably surprised him a little bit in this first round. I think that I thought I had Solomon losing the first round. In fact, it was close, but I thought he lost the first round. And then he seemed to pick it up a gear. Obviously, he kind of got taken down, landed a lovely switch, got to the back, and he just started to get going. And once he finally got to that back position, started landing, threatened the choke, got the finish. It was an emphatic win in the end. I thought it was interesting that he looked quite deflated. He didn't have this kind of huge. I know he got up in the cage and hands raised and all that, but he looked pissed off. I don't think it was. Sometimes you see relief. This looked like he was just kind of irritated or pissed off, or maybe disappointed even in the win.
I think it's a good sign. I think
absolutely.
I think he's. I honestly would say even too hard on himself as well, given the circumstances. And look, it did have a tough, close first round, but I was very impressed by his composure and his ability to get those reads as well, and then obviously he got those reads into round 2 and went on to finish the fight. So I think there's definitely a lot more positives, and it was a good observation from yourself, I think there was a level of deflation there, but I think it might have been a little bit tough on himself, Andy.
Agreed, and I'll say something now that may be a bit tough on him too, given when you factor in all of, this may be overly critical when you consider all of those mitigating factors. I don't think this was his best performance by any means of his career, but I think it's a great thing that it happened then, because I think we've seen a much better version of Solomon Simon in some of his previous fights, and when you consider he's gone in there despite all that, despite maybe not putting on his best performance, and he still goes out there and finishes a guy inside 2 rounds to win the Cage Warriors title, and then from there to set up a fucking incredible fight, which was already slated, he was supposed to be fighting, but now we get Solomon Simon versus Nick Bagley, potentially, assuming, obviously they said it in the Cage, contracts have to be signed and all that, but they basically said, right, this is happening in Dublin, Cage Warriors 200, and we had the 2 lads square off and face off on TV in the middle of the cage. So, I mean, that sets up a fucking huge fight for Solomon, in February of next year, and that's when, that's the fight you want to be firing on all cylinders for, that you want to be, going in, putting your best foot forward, your best performance, because what a fight.
Unbelievable fight. I mean, as fights go, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I think it's the full stop the best fight that Cage Warriors can put on right now, and obviously happening on a monster card there, Cage Warriors 200 in Dublin in February. It's a good first fight to announce for that card, that's for sure, and I'm sure there'll be lots more announced as well. On the same card, Kieran Brady was unfortunate in his fight with Kadeem Perkins, losing via first round KO via knee. Obviously, both guys coming in to this one, Caoilte undefeated. Perkins coming in looking strong, looking powerful early days. It was on show early here, obviously, kind of a low kick early days, took Brady off his feet, and just Brady found himself playing a little bit of catch up. But right after that was, losing in the striking exchanges and the grappling exchanges, and just came up against a better guy on the night. Perkins looked phenomenal, to be honest, in this fight. He looked sharp, looked in the zone, on point from the very early stages here, and he was always going to be a tough guy for anybody to get out of there on the night.
Yeah, Perkins looked very good, and it just, I think, for Kieran Brady, it was one of those where he just didn't really get going at all, and he's probably caught off by getting dropped with that low kick from the moment the fight started, and from then just trying to get into the fight. I don't think he did. It kind of, at times, maybe bits of hesitation, or he was nearly kind of crashing into Kadeem a bit and then fall and getting caught as a result, and he just really didn't get going at all and didn't settle into the fight. And then as a result, we saw, as a result of Kadeem being so good on the feet as well, we saw the end result being with that knee, and it was that was a rough knee. So hope Kieran's okay afterwards, because that was an awful one. Like when and the landing didn't look good either. But so hope he's okay, and he's it doesn't keep him out too long. But look, that's the fight game. This stuff happens, where
100%. Any quick thoughts?
Yeah, it's just a tough lot. Like it was rough to watch. It took a good bit of damage in this fight. But I'm glad I saw some posts online that he is doing okay. But yeah, I mean, Perkins just came out so strongly. Like, I think it was the very first shot that he threw. He dropped him with a low kick, and dropped him again with another low kick, and he just beat him. Kieran just couldn't get his I suppose his feet back underneath him from the initial kind of onslaught from Perkins, and just wasn't he tried to rally, just wasn't able to, and Perkins capitalized brilliantly. And yeah, just bad night at the office. Obviously, we're very high on Kieran Brady. He's looked fantastic, and hopefully he learns from this. And hope he's okay.
Yeah, 100%. Moving on, I guess, to a fight that happened a while back as well at Brave CF 100. Muhammad Mukayev and Jared Burns went at it for the Brave 125-pound title. Jared Burns losing via second round KO. I have a few thoughts on this fight. I don't want to say it with all due respect to Jared Burns and the team FAI as well. Like, I mean, it's very hard to turn down these kind of opportunities, but I just, you know, hindsight is a great thing. I didn't think it was a great idea before the fight to take a fight like this, and you know, obviously the way the fight played out as well, I think Jared Burns did, you know, he put a good account of himself, but you know, didn't really have too much success in round 1 before eating the head kick in round 2. I think, you know, fights like that will definitely tell you where you are at as a fighter. But, you know, with Muhammad Mokaev, this guy is top 3, top 2 level fighter in the world at 125 pounds. I think he showed that, obviously, with Jared Burns coming in very early stages of his career as well. You know, I'm glad, you know, obviously the knockout happened. I think, you know, they're in another world and another way that another fight could have played out. Jared could have got maybe more hurt, and that's something that I don't want to see. And I think, you know, obviously there'll be big lessons learned here from Jared Burns, and he'll dust himself off, and I'm sure that he'll have some great performances moving forward. But, you know, I think this was always going to be a tough one for him, Andy, going in there to try and take on a guy with the level of skills that someone like Muhammad Mokaev has. And I just think, you know, I spoke about this on the SevereMMA podcast, and like, I just like, what the fuck are we doing here with Muhammad Mokaev? Like, get him back into the UFC quick, because he's not going to get the test that he needs as a fighter outside of the UFC right now. And curious to hear your thoughts on this one, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, you know, coming into this, we were kind of saying that it was like, kind of was framing as like David versus Goliath, and that the opportunity is there to, you know, if Jared Burns can go in and win, like what a moment, what a story, what and everything else, and all of that was true, but like the way it played out, and look, I'm sure, like any team or any fighter, they'll think, oh fuck, if I had done this or that or whatever, you know, maybe things could have gone differently. But I just think, like, Muhammad Mokaev just showed that he was in a different class. That may sound harsh. It's not meant to come across that way, but like, there was, you know, you talk about fighters going in and showing levels like that Muhammad Mokaev did that. And I, you know, similar to, you know, you watched Arman Sarukian and Dan Hooker at the weekend. I think you could kind of draw parallels there, and it's to be expected, to your point. Like, this should have been expected coming into this, because Mokaev is what, it's like 23 or however many, 30, 40 fights across amateur and pro. He's one of the best flyweights in the world. He's clearly getting better still. Like, he looks like he's got additional tools that we didn't see him with in the UFC. Obviously, he went away. He was cut. We don't really know the exact truth as to why that was, but part of the narrative going or surrounding that was his fighting style, you know, not finishing enough, not potent enough on the feet. And then you look what he's doing now. Obviously, he went and fought in karate combat. He's clearly been working on the striking, and we see him put Burns out with that kick. Beautiful technique, absolutely beautiful technique. And yeah, it's a tough one for Jared Burns. Obviously, he's only 4-1 or something coming into this fight, or something like that. So, you know, there's again, part of the story, which would have been incredible, the fact that this guy was standing at the bar at the first cage conflict, watching his mate fight, and was like, I'll have a bit of that. It's incredible that he has gotten to this point where he's fighting guys like this, and I'm sure he'll come back, and I'm sure there's plenty more fights from him. But yeah, on the night, it was just, Mokaev was way too much for him. But I'm looking forward to seeing Burns come back, obviously, you know, against lesser competition than Mokaev, and less experienced competition.
Yeah, if Mokaev moves to the UFC, obviously, you know, that title there will probably be vacated again. There's definitely an avenue where I can see Jared Burns working his way back in and competing, if not winning, for a title there as well. But
absolutely,
I think this is not a thing about where Jared Burns is as a fighter or who he is as a fighter. I think it's more so the fact of who Muhammad Mokaev is and where he is in his career, and that should be up there fighting the very best 125ers in the world right now and competing and winning them like he was doing a couple of years ago. So I'm hoping that can happen again.
Yeah, and I correct myself. Jared was 7-1 coming into this. Was 7-1 coming into this. Mokaev was, I think, 14-0 as a pro. But like, we look at what Jared Burns has done within Brave. Like, the first two fights he had in there were unbelievable first round finishes. He had a great win, a great couple of decision wins in the lead up to this. So he's very successful in Brave up until this point, and I do think that he'll come back. And again, to that point, he's only 4 or 5 years competing in the sport. So compare that with Makhachev, who's been doing it for a long time. Looking forward to seeing him back, and fair play to him as well. Like, I know, like, we're rightly talking about, okay, well, should they have taken this fight? Maybe not. But also hats off to him. Like, it's not what you want to be remembered for, but like, serious set of balls in him to go in there and compete with one of the best in the world, if not the best flyweight in the world.
100%. I'd like to move on to Cage Warriors 197, 198 took place this past weekend, guys. We had lots of Irish interest on both of the cards. I think we should I'd like to talk about Cage Warriors 198, the main event, O'Meal Brown versus Omar Tugarev. First, O'Meal Brown took the unanimous decision, 49-46 on all three judges' scorecards. Caoilte, a fight that started well and cut a fairly familiar cloth from what we've seen from Omar Tugarev in most of his fights, and that's an exciting, forward-moving, smothering, grappling style that definitely worked for him against O'Meal Brown in the fight, and most likely probably was the game plan here, coming in to try and smother the guy moving down from welterweight to lightweight and see if he'd be able to last that pace, and worked well in round one, but seemed to kind of falter in the second, third, and fourth and fifth rounds as well for Tugarev, where he could not really get the takedown or kind of, force his will on O'Meal Brown. And the way this fight kind of played out was, in my head, kind of worked the opposite way in reality, in terms that O'Meal Brown started to get stronger as this fight went on and was defending the takedown and, even landing some takedowns himself. So, obviously unfortunate for Omar Tugarev, loses the interim title, and obviously be back to the drawing board for him. What were your thoughts on the fight as a whole?
Yeah, like you said, I thought he started really, really well. He was just all over him like a rash. It was crazy. Really, looked like I'd say he's absolutely a nightmare to grapple from looking at that first round. He looked really good. It's what we kind of expected from him. And but then from second round onwards, I just feel like we saw someone completely different. I don't know if it was if he was tired or whatever, but he just wasn't able to replicate anything that he did in the first round. Really, there were obviously a couple of good moments. He did. He had a few choke attempts. He reversed position a couple of times as well. Wasn't all that bad, but yeah, I'm not sure if he just got tired from the second round onwards or what happened. But it was a really tough fight from then on. And I think when O'Meal Brown started landing he landed a big left hand at one point in the second round. And when he started landing strikes, I just think he started wearing Omar down a lot more, and then started getting more confident by having success with his wrestling. And the fight just seemed to get away from Omar Tugarev from, I guess, the second round, third round onwards. I think you see, but before the final round, Chris is there trying to kind of just wake him up a little bit, or just kind of fire him up going to that last round. And it was a better round, but he just wasn't able to get it done. So it's a shame, but look, I imagine he'll probably compete in Cage Warriors again. Hopefully he can work his way back to a title opportunity in the next one or two fights.
Yeah, 100%. There's a strange scenario in the second round in this one, Andy, where it was kind of like a role reversal here. We had O'Meal Brown trying to take the fight down. We had Omar Tugarev looking to seemingly comfortable in keeping the fight standing as well. And I think it was that kind of pendulum switch that happened from the first round to the second round that kind of turned this fight on its head, where, I think when we look at a lot of fights, ability to be able to control where the action goes and can lead into a major factor in somebody winning or losing a fight. And I think it was O'Meal Brown that was able to kind of determine where the fight played out, sprawling good, offering the takedown himself, and obviously landing some big shots on the feet. And I mean, Tugarev was game throughout this fight, but was just not not maybe at the level that he should have been or can be at on the night. And O'Neal Brown looked very good in there too. I think we have to say that as well, you know.
Definitely. Yeah, so impressed by the first round from Tugarev. Like, he just didn't give him an inch, and I was shocked. Like, as an onlooker, I was just kind of perplexed at watching the second round because you know, Tugarev had so much success on the ground. And perhaps maybe he tired himself out. I don't know. But then he seemed to be happy to trade with Brown, which is obviously a really, really dangerous game. We've seen this guy, you know, who used to fight at welterweight, obviously now fighting at lightweight, possesses a serious amount of power in his hands. Brown landed a really, really hard counter left hand at one point, and then all of a sudden you know, I'm thinking to myself, why are we not seeing Tugarev level change? Why are we not seeing him look for a takedown? And on the flip side, after spending all of the first round, you know, just getting tied up in knots on the mat, we see Brown shooting for a takedown and taking it to the mat. I'm like, why have I gone crazy here? Like, what the fuck is going on? Because, like, why is Brown not like keeping it on the feet where he's having success after a really tough round on the mat? And yeah, but anyway, it didn't matter, because at the end of the day, Brown proceeded to basically dominate the rest of the fight, and largely on the ground, which was just a complete shock to me when you consider the skill set that Tugarev has and what he had done to Brown in that first round. And it just, I don't know, it was like watching a different fighter in rounds 2 to 5, to be honest. I don't know if it was cardio. I don't know if it was just, you know, something on the mental side that a flip switched or something, but looking at Tugarev, it just didn't look like he was there. Like, it looked like he was elsewhere. And obviously we saw, you know, Chris Fields getting, you know, who at the best of times is very animated in the corner. I mean, this was the most loose, I would say, Chris Fields was ever that I've seen in a corner. I know it was light. He slaps Tugarev in the face in between, I think it was between rounds 2 and 3. Just, you could tell he was like, what is going on? He completely incensed. That continued on. He was screaming at Tugarev, you know, in one of the later rounds. And I suppose that in the 5th, Tugarev did seem to come alive a little bit, but it was just too little too late, and he still lost that round. But yeah, just a very bizarre, you know, we know how good Tugarev is. Obviously, he's still very young, very early in his career. He doesn't, you know, I think he's only 2 years a pro, if even.
Yeah.
So
even getting into the position that he's in, to get into the position that he's in right now is a tremendous achievement. And look, at these are the kind of fights that you learn the lessons on. And I think, you know, maybe he just, you know, the reactions of Chris Fields might have told him is that maybe this is not the same fighter that we're seeing inside the cage that we're seeing in the gym. Sometimes you have to do some things to try and get the best out of your fighters, but it was definitely animated in the corner, as it always is with Chris and he's cornering too. But look, back to the drawing board here for Tugarev, and I think there'll be lessons learned in that fight, and he'll learn and he'll grow, and he'll be back again, and be interesting to see what happens 100%. Next. Caoilte, I'll talk to you. I'll bring another Team KF guy who did find some success on the night via unanimous decision. That's Roman David making his professional debut against Christian Soda. Won by unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27, producing a good performance overall. Looked really good on the feet. We've seen him obviously competing a few times at amateur level too. I'm very excited and happy to see him making his professional debut and off to a very good start.
Yeah, tough debut as well to have. Looked very comfortable on the feet, kind of managed his distance very well, and the selection of strikes was just very good. He's quite he's really entertaining to watch. I kind of think he's that kind of fan friendly style. But yeah, no, I thought, you know, really, really good debut. He was put into a few positions by Christian Soda as well, with where he had to, you know, he was on his back on the ground. He had to get back up from there, and you know, he kind of saw everything in that fight. We got to see a little bit of everything from Roman David, and very impressive debut. I'm excited to see how his career goes within Cage Warriors, if he goes elsewhere like some of the other KF boys like Norcus and so. But very very promising.
Oh, sorry, you cut me on the hop there. Nathaniel Woods defeated Matthew Friel and the via unanimous decision as well. It started off early in this Cage Warriors card. Not the Nathaniel Woods that we all know that's competing in the UFC. A different Nathaniel Woods who was making, I believe he was making his debut. Was he in this fight? Maybe not. I don't want to throw false stats out there, but nonetheless got the win via unanimous decision over Matthew Friel, 29-27, 29-27, 29-26. Tough one here for Matthew Friel.
Yeah, difficult one. All right, and you're correct. It was Nathaniel Woods' debut. It's like I just keep thinking of that meme. Like, I want to watch Nathaniel Wood fight. It was like, we've got Nathaniel Woods at home. But no, he looked really good. In fairness, like that's probably pretty derogatory. He looks very good here. He dropped Friel in the first round to a knee. Friel did a good job to pop back up, but he just like there was a severe speed advantage in the striking area to Woods. He I think Friel got a takedown at one point in the first, but he definitely lost that. Took some big knees and elbows and almost got finished at the end of the second. Did well. Like, I thought it was en route to a TKO, but he did well to kind of latch onto a takedown and get the takedown. But again, lost that round, I thought, and I actually couldn't find the scorecards online because I was trying to see like which one was given the 10-8, but it's just down as 1-0, 1-0, 1-0 on MMA decisions for some reason. But again, third round you had Friel. He got the takedown. He ended up landing a blatant illegal knee, to be honest. So he got a point deducted. But he did pretty well. Took Woods down a few times. Again, kind of too little, too late. I gave him the third, so I thought it was he lost the first two and then drew the last one based on the point deduction. So yeah, I'd agree with the 29-27. All right, 29-26. I'm not sure which round that was. Maybe the second, but yeah, I suppose if he almost got finished, maybe. But I had 2 rounds to 1 and then a point deduction. So
yeah,
tough one, but yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, 100%. It was a mixed bag of results. Obviously, the previous night, Cage Warriors 197 on plugged card as well. I'll stay with you, Andy. Obviously, Emer Darcy losing via third round TKO against Katie Richova. This is a tough one. Emer didn't really get going in this fight at all. I think Richkova
quick, really good,
very quick, very good, and handed out a lot of damage here to Emer Darcy. I think there was around 40 unanswered shots there towards. I wonder what the fuck was the ref wanting to see here. Needs to do better in scenarios like that, and obviously it was just a tough one for Emer Darcy.
Yeah, I mean, look, the big takeaway from this one is obviously the stoppage. I think Emer was losing fair and square. Richkova looked like on the night the better fighter, quicker, more potent. Emer had success at times, but each round it was Richkova was doing the better damage. She cut Emer open. There was a bit of a hematoma on Emer's head starting after the first round, and then got cut open, and her eye looked like it was en route to kind of, I don't know, it's shutting, but it was definitely swollen at the end of the second. And then obviously the stoppage came in the third, and just like this. I'm trying to think how to say this. I don't necessarily think that each blow that Richkova was landing was the most damaging, fight-stopping blow by any means. However, when you have someone flattened out on their back and you land close to around 40, there were so many it was kind of hard to keep fully count, but I counted around 40 unanswered shots. Now, albeit at one point Emer moves, but barely. And this fight should have been stopped.
With all due respect to Emer, the body language she was showing there was that she was done at that stage for sure. And I think the referee needs to be intelligent enough and know fights enough to be able to recognize that too at the same time. And even if they're not which some of them were elbows that were landing clean. Some of them were like big shots. Others were, kind of more rabbit punches. A couple, it was kind of hard to see where they were some of them landing, but she was landing so many strikes here. This is ridiculous. I know the refs shouldn't really care about this, but they're going in here, they're getting paid fuck all. The fight's clearly over.
there's no like, what's the point in taking? Like, it's not a title fight. It's not like it was over 25 shots ago. So the fact that I don't know, it's just it was rough to watch. Terrible stoppage. The ref needs to, and whoever's looking at the ref, they need to have a long hard look at that and learn from that. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not really in the business of saying this person should never ref again or any of that stuff. But like, this was awful. Like, absolutely terrible. I don't know what they were waiting for. And it's dangerous and a disservice to Emer or to any fighter who was there. But like, we're in a sport where people can literally lose years from their lives, and you've got that. It was a joke. It's a disgrace.
100%. Caoilte, I'll move over to Jordan O'Neill, who took one home for the O'Neill clan against Mitchell Good. This fight, I mean, this fight was absolutely insane, like crazy fight. Like, it was great for Jordan O'Neill to finally get in there. He's had such amount of bad luck in terms of fight falling outs and everything like that. He made up for it. He went in there and put on a barn burner there in the early stages of Cage Warriors 197. This was one to remember. Absolutely insane fight, over and back for all 3 rounds. At one stage, just literally dropping his hands and letting Mitchell just tee off on his face. Not the best tactic, I don't think, fellas. If you're hoping to,
unbelievable. They teach that when you go in, don't you? Like that. I think Pat McAllister and Liam Shannon. That's the first thing they teach.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, it was crazy, but mad in a way. I mean, you're not going to get round scored for you if you're just dropping your hands and letting someone tee off on you. A tremendous show of toughness, that being said, but
we're after having a go like, oh, fucking these unanswered strikes, and you're ruining people.
Oh god,
but
what a fight.
Crazy fight, Caoilte, all comes to all.
Yeah, unbelievable. This is why I think, when Jordan's had such terrible luck when it comes to getting back in there, and we've been waiting for so long to see him, and then we finally, he delivers. He always delivers, which is the one, which is always a plus. But wow, what a war! Just crazy from start to finish. From, I think, as soon as the second round started and the way the second round went, it's just, I was hands on my head just looking at it, thinking this is just nuts. Maybe not the best decision making at times, but my God, it makes for some seriously entertaining watching. So massive win as well. Mitchell Good is a very tough opponent, and look, hopefully he can keep the momentum going, and Cage Warriors will look at that and think, geez, we want him in there as soon as possible, and hopefully he can get in there in the next 2 months or so, or just probably on the Dublin card, I imagine. We all want to see a Jordan O'Neill fight after that one anyway.
100%. Just looking ahead at some upcoming action, obviously coming towards the close of the year, we're winding up in terms of fight cards. We do have a Gladiator card on December 7th with 2 pro fights on that card. Jack Core taking on Samuel Draper, and Marco Boychuk taking on Alex Fagan. Obviously supported by an undercard of amateur fights as well. And obviously look, Gladiator always put on some good cards there. I'm excited to see Jack Core in action again, obviously sitting at 3-0 so far of his career, and it'll be the pro debut of Alex Fagan as well. So looking forward to seeing those 2 fights and seeing what else that card has to offer as well. And I think that just about wraps us up, lads. Episode 95.
We had one card there just on the weekend there, a domestic one. Rat, our good pal Dave Farrell, I believe, is the matchmaker for that one.
Oh, right,
a man who wears many hats in Irish MMA.
Swiss Army knife.
A legend. I saw that Henry Lecca won his first amateur title. He's the bantamweight champion there after beating Nathan Chambers. That's obviously a good win. Nathan Chambers has looked really good as of late. So great win for the CMAC man. And then also Owen McDonald, I think his second win in about 3 weeks. He obviously was over in Amsterdam in Levels where he got a win, and he got another win here. He got another win here last night in Rath. So there was a number of other fights there that I don't have in front of me, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But great to see more shows, and big wins for the boys there.
We should finish. How about big fight fallout, lads? Tartan blood. Yeah, it was a sticky old situation there.
I felt bad for them. I
know.
Learning the hard way.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, fuck. Yeah, that was a tough one. That was a tough one to say the least. Obviously, that was the chaos. It was the chaos main event.
If it looks like a duck and it lays eggs,
it's probably a chicken.
Yeah,
we're missing one more fight.
Go on,
Dennis Rimpan.
Yes,
Jesus, how could we forget?
Fuck, yeah.
Jesus, obviously, his fast rise up the octagon ranks came to an end this past weekend, obviously against Gokhanasku. First round KO. A lead up Caoilte, similar enough to what we've seen in Dennis Rimpan. We had the R9 haircut.
That was phenomenal.
Yeah, we had plenty of shit talk before the fight, but a fight that was going well for him in round one. Suddenly got turned on his head. He hit a big right hand, and that finished the fight. And look at a good stoppage by the ref. All comes to all, he was looking a little bit shaken after the fact, and obviously it'd be disappointing. I think he's had a good run in octagon, and I don't think he's anywhere close to being done yet in that division too. But he'll have to dust himself off after this one.
Yeah, I think there's lots and lots of positives to take from the performance as well. Despite the loss, he I want to touch the build up was just, he knows how to get people talking. He knows how to build up hype. The haircut to add to everything, absolutely sensational. The walkout was brilliant as well, and then the performance. It was, it was all going really well for him. I think it was probably one of the more aggressive performances I've seen from the very beginning, and I thought he looked very good. His striking was sharp. I thought he was winning until he got caught, but then Askew was just kind of waiting for his opportunity to land that massive shot, and when he did, it really got him, and the referee did a fantastic job to stop any more damage. And yeah, look, up until that point, looked incredible. Massive positives for the future. He'll probably dust himself off, and then we'll probably learn from it, and then come back and try and start that title run again. Because, like I said, lots of positives to take from it. So fair dues to him. He's really accelerated his career in the space of 12 months. So to get to this point so soon, fair dues.
Yeah, and great stuff there. And I wish him the best for the future. And I think now is probably the right time for us to wrap up episode 95. Hard to believe at 95 we're almost at 100, lads. Don't know if we'll get it before the end of the year, but hard to believe it's November already. We'll be getting ready for obviously the Irish MMA awards coming up as well. The Owl Triangle of the Year, the most highly anticipated award in Irish MMA right now. We'll have to decide that fairly
basically
soon.
Everyone on Gladiator have a big opportunity now. One other one I didn't mention, Ricky Arujo, who won the title there, the flyweight title at Rath. He's fighting for a title, I believe, on Gladiator as well. So there's an opportunity now.
Big opportunity there. Obviously, if you win that, you'll probably get whatever we're given out as a prize in probably 2027, 2028. If it's anything to do with Andy Stevenson. Yeah. And I don't know what you're laughing at.
TKO's career has skyrocketed since being out of that hoodie, I think. I think single-handedly that has been the catalyst
Paul
for
Brown's career, fucking on the up and up.
Paul Brown.
Yeah.
That man's basically a celebrity now.
Oh, 100%. Lots.
And look at us.
Just
on the slide down to
depression. We need to start wearing the hoodies again, boys. That's what we're Indeed. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks to obviously, if you didn't listen to the start, I probably should have said it in the middle of the podcast. Go over and check out our interview with Dylan Tuke as well, which is added as a bonus episode, if you want to call it, this week. Thank you to him for the time and his honesty. Thank everybody for listening. Give us a like on YouTube, share with a friend, give us a like and a 5 stars on Spotify as well, or wherever you are listening to this podcast, whether it be on SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever. Give it an old share, give it an old like, share the love, spread the love. We appreciate the support, and all that's left for us to do is for Caoilte to see us out.
Gurmina Mahogif, agus Longafol.